Barnes and Leslie, we are your Morning X. A very cool, if you like rock music, auction is going on tomorrow that you need to know about, and you can get into it online. A bunch of great rock artifacts. We're going to talk to the president of Guernsey Auction House up in New York City next.
Hey, check out the Morning X podcast, especially if you missed something on the show that was kind of riveting. Well, this was Crash got a free heart scan because we're offering those at 99X, and we actually revealed the results live on the air.
Scary.
It was unbelievable. And Barnes, what's our offer again? Because this is really cool.
Well, you just mentioned at Virtual Imaging that you heard about it on 99X, and they'll give you and your plus one a free heart scan, and limited conditions apply.
Find out what happened with Crash. Check out the Morning X podcast wherever you listen to podcasts.
So there's this great auction going on tomorrow on Wednesday that it's all from a hotel up in New York City. Now, you know this hotel, right? Because you lived there for a while.
Yeah, the Chelsea is, let me just say, the history of this hotel. It kind of reminds you of all of the iconic artists back in the day from the 60s, all hung out at the Chelsea. Just like CBGB's, you know what I mean? Like, you know, everybody.
They hung out there, or they
hung there, they stayed there. It was like the Sid and Nancy Hotel. I mean, it's got a lot of history, and it's open. It is now open. It's the Chelsea.
So 70s and 80s, so that this big sale is a bunch of things that have, through all those years they've collected. I mean, Jimi Hendrix, Sid Vicious, Patti Smith, Janis Joplin were among the artists, writers, actors, musicians who called that home during its heyday. So the auction is tomorrow. We're going to get all the info right now from Arlan Ettinger, who is the president of Guernsey, the auction house up in New York. Good morning. How are you, Arlan?
Very well. Lovely to be here. Thank you.
Sounds like such a cool auction. How did this come about? Were they just collecting and then all over the years and thought now it's the time?
5 years ago, we did a crazy auction of 50 doors that were being thrown out of the Chelsea, saved by a homeless man who then was able to research them and determine that we had the doors to the rooms of Janis Joplin, Leonard Cohen, Jimi Hendrix, Jerry Garcia, Andy Warhol, and Bob Dylan.
Wow.
And we did one of the craziest auctions ever, and that led to this current event, which has more treasures from the Chelsea, including the original neon lettering from the iconic sign on 23rd Street here in New York that millions and millions of people around the world are familiar with. But then it goes much further, because in this auction, for example, are truly treasured items from the career of Madonna. Madonna was a young woman from Michigan, came to New York City, a talented dancer but out of work, meets two young musicians living in Queens, New York, moves in with them. They form a little group. They teach her how to play guitar and drums. They form a group called Breakfast Club, get into CBGB, and the rest was history. She rose meteorically to one of the most famous people on earth. We have the very guitars she learned how to play on.
Wow.
Her very first audio tapes, both cassette and reel-to-reel. Pictures of her living in that house before she was known by anyone. The drums that she played at CBGB, very cool.
This is all being conducted online via liveauctioneers.com, which I'm very familiar with. Barnes, I actually have the app as well. I've been on these auction sites for, folk art sales. It's so fascinating to sit there and watch, because you can sign up, right? Because you might want to bid on something, but you can watch and see how much things go for. I will definitely sign up for this. Talk about some of the other things that are actually being offered.
Well, there are, as I said, the actual neon lettering from the sign that's a 35-foot tall sign, but broken down into letters. These are things that are manageable for the home. And when the hotel went under a renovation, and now it's open and beautiful, they took the neon down very carefully and made individual signs of each of the letters. So this HOTEL times 2, because there's a double-sided sign, plus the full spelling out of the name Chelsea. Really terrific things. I'm walking into the room where the exhibition's taking place. I don't know if you can hear the music.
Yes.
But it's a lively spot.
We're talking to Arlan Ettinger, who is the president of Guernsey Auctions up in New York. They're doing this, famous hotels doing this auction with all these artifacts over the years. Some famous rock stars, artists. What do you think, Arlan, is the most expensive piece that will go in the auction tomorrow?
Well, among them, certainly, I would think are three master reels of tape recording that constitute the whole recording session of Bob Dylan's very first album.
Wow.
And as someone who's up in years, and grew up with Dylan's music, to me that just sends goosebumps all over me when I think about that, because without these tapes, who knows if there would have even been a Bob Dylan career that influenced the lives of so many of us.
Where were the tapes? Like, how did they end up with these tapes for the whole first album?
After the recording session in the early 1960s, someone working at Columbia Records, and the tapes were not in any way being treasured, they were just being given away. There was a young blind man living in New York, and someone who worked at Columbia was that young man's roommate, and brought them home and gave them as a gift to that young blind man, who today is alive and well, lives in Detroit, and very, very thoughtfully is selling these tapes and giving all the money to an organization geared to assisting the blind.
Wow, that's very cool.
Yeah, 60 years of downtown hosting the New York-centric auction is Guernsey's. And I just have to say, congratulations. I'm on liveauctioneers.com right now. You can preview what's actually going to be auctioned off, Barnes. And there's some priceless artifacts.
That's so cool. Well, Arlan, thank you for sharing all that with us. I'm definitely going to check that out tomorrow.
Thanks for your interest. Love the interview.
Thanks a lot. Have a great day, Arlan.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye. I'm so glad he was able to tell us who Madonna was.
I know. He's like an old guy.
There's this girl. It's like Jimmy talking to us. Her name was Madonna.
It did sound like it, yeah.
She did have some songs that some people
I
knew.
wonder how they got some of that stuff. That's
I know.
Crazy.
I'm glad he said that was going to charity. I was like, well, who's going to get all this jack from all this? I mean, it took some homeless dude to figure out you're throwing out doors of like Janis Joplin's front door and stuff. They're like, oh, my bad. We'll take those back in.
That is that's insane.
So that's tomorrow. What's the website? Liveauctioneers.com?
Yes.